Mario, Ruby, let's go. Let's go.
Come on, let's have a candid conversation. Let's talk about it. Just bring it up, we got hope and love.
Yeah.
It's all about you and your well-being. The candid conversation show. Let's go. Let's talk about
Hey,
it.
let's talk, let's walk it out. Let's talk, fuck it out.
It's all about you.
Let's fuck it out. Let's talk.
About it.
Welcome to Talk About It, the Candid Conversation Show with Muriel,
And Ruby.
where we discuss topics that are unspoken and taboo in our community. We are so pleased to have a conversation with our Haitian sister, Shirley Dorsainval. We will be discussing her journey with past trauma, entrepreneurship, and her passion working as a mental health therapist.
Welcome, Shirley.
Hey,
to the
you
show.
guys. Thank you for having me.
About time.
I know, right?
Wish me luck.
We haven't seen you in forever with this COVID.
COVID.
Yeah, we miss you.
Yeah, I've been tucked away inside
Yes.
of my little cubby, I would call it.
Yes, yes.
Hidden
Helping
from the
people.
world.
It still hasn't
true.
stopped you from working.
That's
right.
true. That's true. That's
Listen, we want to dive right into
Yes.
your story.
Yeah.
We like to lead with asking the guests to tell us a little bit about their childhood because we believe that your childhood is the foundation to what we become as adults.
Yeah, my 27 years on Earth is very interesting.
So young.
So I started off as a Haitian adoptee. So I was born to be taken from my mother due
my.
to her schizophrenia.
Was she
Okay.
here?
My mother lived in in the U.S.
Okay, okay.
I was born in the U.S. My other siblings were.
Okay.
So I was her. I was a baby at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and this is all information that I'm gathering from my siblings. And I
Right.
don't know anything about this story,
Right.
and I just try to piece everything together
Right.
as much as I can. So I was taken into foster home, where I was probably like 6-8 months at that time.
Okay.
And then I was put into a Catholic group home, I believe. And then at the time, I guess Florida was doing this thing where they were separating siblings,
Yes.
but then they decided to put siblings together.
together.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so then they passed out a requirement that if there is siblings, they do have to be adopted together.
Okay.
So at first, my brother and I were separated. He got adopted. I was still in the Catholic schoolgirl group home. And then I was going to be adopted. However, they passed that law that we had to be adopted together.
Okay.
So here's the concern.
Yes.
I'm a baby. Everybody wants a baby. My
course.
brother's 10.
Yeah.
No one
Oh,
wants a
okay.
10-year-old.
Yeah.
So we went through a very difficult time finding placement because it was always this, we want the baby, but we don't want the 10-year-old.
That's sad.
So then finally, apparently they found my father, my biological father, and I lived with him and his partner at the time. And then I believe he got deported back to St. Lucia, and I was with his partner, but she had like 4 kids.
Oh my goodness.
And apparently it was very hard for her to take care of us. She had 4 kids on top of us.
Yes.
That made 6 kids, plus her siblings and her mom.
She was-
and
too many
it was
kids in
just
the house.
overwhelming for
Yes.
her. So we went back into foster care.
Yes.
And that is when they went on a search to find any family member that was willing to adopt us.
Okay.
And again, same problem, baby
course.
versus
10-year-old.
10-year-old. At the time, by then he was already like 13 and I was
Wow.
3. So then finally at 3, the mother of my grandfather's wife, so not my biological grandmother,
Okay.
she decided that she would take us in, and
Okay.
then I was living with her for the rest of my life. So that was kind
Wow.
of like from like 0 to 3. I had a very hard time adjusting.
Yes.
So I was a troubled child, but not in a sense of like fighting, nothing like that. I just talked too much.
Girls do talk a lot.
That's this one.
I talked so much, and I always got in trouble for it.
Like, shut your mouth.
I was friendly. I talked too much, and boy, that just got me in so much trouble. And I think around specific times, it maybe took me into my adulthood when I started to learn about psychology, where I learned that I was sexually assaulted, but really didn't know what
As a
that
child?
was. Yeah, I really didn't know what it was, and I didn't know if it was a problem.
Right.
But I do just recall me no longer going to the person's house anymore. No one really addressed anything or said anything about it. So for me, it was like, oh, okay, whatever the heck that was.
Right.
And it took until I was sexually assaulted in adulthood for me to realize
What it was.
the pattern.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense about the fear surrounding being around men
Yes.
and the discomfort. I think I was very sexually knowledgeable. I had a lot of knowledge on sexuality, but more on the side of intimacy, not really about the act
Okay.
itself.
Of it itself.
So that was also something that I learned. And then I learned about my personality trait, which was I was attracted to men who were older than me because I was assaulted by a
That
man
older.
that was
Well,
older
how old
than
were
me.
you? So the first
I was
time.
like 8,
Oh.
Okay.
an 8-year-old, between 8 or 9. I just remember, I can remember me wearing like this blue skirt on a bed, and that's as far as
it.
my memory goes.
Yeah.
But that's why it's so important. We say this all the time for us as parents. Well, you're not a parent yet, but to talk to your kids. You
Yeah.
have
Right.
to.
Yeah, and I think I brought that discussion up on Facebook where I was saying, parents, at what age are you
Right.
going to tell your child about
started
sex?
early.
You start
And
early.
a lot of parents are like, when they're ready, when they're ready and they're able to understand. And I was like, do you mean when you're ready?
When you're ready, that's
and
it.
when you are able to understand how to
Absolutely.
explain it to them?
Yes.
Right. Because children nowadays are being sexually assaulted as babies.
Every
That's the
single day.
problem.
So,
yes.
you saying that you're going to wait until you think they're ready, you're like,
When
that's
are they
probably
ready?
14.
There you go.
But then even as kids, Disney Channel or any type of show, there's, people are holding hands, they're kissing, they're hugging, so they're already seeing
They're
that.
already
So what
seeing
is
it.
the right age?
And on top of that, at the age of 2 is when kids start to experiment. They, because we tell them don't touch the stove,
Right,
exactly.
don't touch the door,
Right.
don't turn on the water. They have this piece of a body part that they have on their body, and they're like, okay, you
What
guys
is
never
this?
tell me about this.
Exactly.
I know not to touch everything else but
But
this.
that.
And so kids start to experiment. Like, what is this?
What is it?
Why is it hanging out? Why is it inside?
Yes.
And so they're going to be experimenting with it, and a lot of families would call that fast, but in reality
that's not
it's
it.
just curiosity.
Right,
It's
it
just
is.
as kids are curious to put stuff in their mouth, that's how they learn texture. The same
Yes.
thing as their
Right.
body.
Isn't that something?
So you never really think about that, though. You don't blame yourself.
Never.
You don't feel guilty about it because it's nothing that you did.
I don't think I could have done anything about it. I think
At
I
that
was
young
it was a babysitter. So there's really the person was
No.
responsible for making sure that I was home at a specific time
That you've
and
eaten, you did
that
your
I ate.
homework.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was their job, and I guess they decided to take advantage of it.
Right.
So
This is just a problem.
And what
that
about-
was kind of like that childhood
Yeah.
for me. Yeah,
So, but like I said, it wasn't your fault.
right. And I actually recently told my aunt because my mom passed away. It was a very
Sorry,
bad
Dad.
idea. It was a very
bad idea?
It wasn't. Haitians have a hard time understanding
Yes.
these things. So she brought up something that was very inappropriate, and I said to her, I love that you continuously remind me that you made sure that I wasn't sexually assaulted, but I was.
But you were.
Right? So one of the reoccurring themes for adoptive kids is parents reminding them that they're going to be like their parent, which sucks, right?
Yes.
You don't wanna hear
want
that.
to grow your
No.
life knowing that someone thinks you're going to be the worst of the
Right.
worst.
Right.
So that was always a consistent reminder. Like, I don't know if
They
they
throw it
thought
in
it
your
was
face.
pushing me forward.
That's what it was.
It didn't push me
It's supposed
forward.
to be a motivator.
It
They
didn't
can't help it,
motivate
though.
me. She had a mental health disorder, so there's
Right.
nothing that I could have
Couldn't
done.
No.
There's nothing she could have done, but unfortunately, mental health isn't a part. It's either you are cursed
Yes.
for disrespecting your parents,
Yes.
or something happened when you were a kid. So that's some of the things that they really center their conversations around. And being an adult where I've accomplished so much,
much.
and hearing someone still tell me that,
Right.
I'm like, you keep telling me that you did
No.
everything in your power.
But you
and I was
didn't.
like, it's not my responsibility for you to take care of me.
Exactly.
And you're making it seem like now that I'm an adult, it's my responsibility. I'm like, you guys chose to adopt me.
Exactly.
So it was your responsibility.
Isn't that something that they
Right.
keep throwing that in your face?
But that's the thing that Haitians do,
Yeah.
though. They need to stop that.
Yeah.
But they only know what they know.
Right.
Think about it. They only know what they know. Their parents may have spoken to them or
Right.
you know,
and
treated them that way.
she tried to make me understand that. She was just like, you don't know what role I played in your life. And I was like, well, no one told
Well,
me.
tell me.
Yes.
So
Share with me.
I
Yeah,
didn't
tell
know.
me.
I didn't know I was adopted until I was 18. So be mindful.
didn't.
I
They
didn't
said nothing to you.
understand anything about my life until my older brother, who was adopted with me,
Right.
decided to tell me this story.
So why did they never say anything?
I found out that I was adopted when I was going to. I was registering for school,
College,
for
yeah, okay.
college.
Yes.
And they asked you, are you a ward of the state? I said no.
Yeah.
And I got declined for lying because I was a ward of the state. And I was
But
like,
you didn't know?
I didn't even know what a ward of the state is.
Right.
So I'm out here like, I go to my mom, I said, they declined me because I'm a ward of the state. What is a ward of a state?
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, you're adopted. I was like, what?
Tell me.
Well, how did you feel at that time, though?
My documents.
When she said
Yeah.
you were adopted.
Yeah, so she's like, we have to go to the court and get your legal document.
What was going on in your head?
Exactly.
What was going on in your head?
I always had an idea
yeah.
because they kept telling me about my mom and then my dad. But as a kid, you can't really conceptualize what they're trying to tell
course,
you.
yeah.
So that who I thought was my father apparently wasn't my father.
Wow.
I grew up with this man and I thought that guy was my father.
He wasn't.
Didn't know. There's always this strange woman coming
Right.
around. She
wow.
had one of the things I'll always remember. She had a cart. She would push around a cart, and she was homeless basically because
Yeah.
of her disorder. But she would come to my mom's house so that she could see me, and I didn't really put
You
two
didn't know
and two together.
You didn't know
but
that was
as
your
I
mom?
started to get older, maybe around 14, 15 is when I started to be like, I think that's my mom. And then my brother would always say his mom, and I would just say your mom. I would never say that's my mom because
Okay.
I didn't know that she was my mom.
Right.
And then again, when I applied to college, I had to do it by myself. And they were like, you're declined, you're a ward of the state, which technically means as a ward of the state, I'm supposed to go to school for free.
Right.
And they didn't know that either.
Yeah,
Isn't
they
that
wouldn't have known.
something?
They wouldn't have known. They definitely wouldn't have known.
But so for anybody who's watching, if your child is,
Yes.
they were in any way, shape, or form in a group home, whether it was for 3 years, 2 years, 1 year, their
Education.
education is covered by the state because they
Yeah.
compensate parents for adopting
Isn't
you.
that something?
Yeah.
Wow, you're telling me something new.
I know that healing is a process.
Yeah.
Is there anything sometimes throughout life that triggers you and it brings you back to those memories?
Yeah, I had to get therapy to figure this out.
Yes.
But I have a lot of resentment for within my family. So
Yeah.
I'm not very emotionally connected to my family
Okay.
because I wasn't shown emotional intelligence.
Exactly.
So whenever people are talking about family, I'm just like, okay. But I know the importance of it because I'm a family therapist. Right?
Yes.
That's what made me go
And
into
you
the
want it.
field.
You
Yeah.
want it.
Yeah. It's basically replacing what I couldn't get. If you think about it, helping
Right.
others
Yeah.
achieve the lack thereof that I
Right.
didn't. So teaching positive parenting skills, teaching the importance of being both close and strict, making sure
Right.
that you have a balance of both so that your kids aren't neglected in both
Yeah.
aspects.
You're going to be an amazing mom.
I know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you want to be a mom?
I do.
Yeah, she
I
does.
do. I do. Yeah. So that's something that I learned. I'm very distant from my family, and a lot
Too
of
many
times.
lies too. There's lies.
That
they
part-
weren't being honest.
I think my aunt, she has some resentment towards me, and I told her to get therapy, and
Right.
I can't be the person that you keep using as a punching
No.
bag.
Right, no longer.
So
No more.
no. So I remember telling her, I was just like, hey, I personally know I have resentment towards you.
Right.
I just think you guys could have done a better job parenting. Yes, you gave me food. Yes, you gave me shoes, clothes.
Right.
And I think those are my basic needs, but there are 4 other things that are part
That
of my
I needed.
basic
Right.
need.
Right.
And I didn't get those. So
Truth hurts, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, it does hurt.
Yeah.
It's like a slap in the
And
face.
that I guess made her super emotional, and she's like, oh, she
Yeah.
thinks that she's like, your social media friends. I was like, but I never told you
Right.
that my social media friends are doing anything.
Right.
I said, if this is your assumption, again, you have to go to therapy and figure that out.
Right.
But I do know that I get very triggered by family just because I'm
It's just
so
been a lot.
emotionally disconnected
lot,
from
right.
it. And a lot of times people will talk about family and they'll try to like have the conversation with me, and I'm just like,
No.
Yeah.
therapist Shirl's come out because that's what I know.
Right,
I'm
right.
like, don't get me
But
started.
on my personal side, I'm just like, okay, don't even get me started. My family's very important to me, but just not probably more
Right.
so over the family that I'm trying to grow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry you had to go through
I
all
know.
that. But you're growing, and like you said, family
Yeah.
is important to
Yeah.
you. And one
Yeah.
day you're going to have your very own family.
Exactly.
And do it
hoping
different.
that I do it completely
You
different.
will.
I know that like small things trickle in when it comes to
course.
parenting from what
Yeah,
you
of
learn,
course,
but
of
yeah,
course.
making
You
sure that
will.
I also apply the skills that I learned.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah.
You said it happened a second time. Sorry. You said that something happened a
Yeah.
second time, but you were older.
Yeah. So, college. I was in college. So I went away to a conference. It's so weird. Professional conference. This is my first time learning about business. I didn't have a business yet. Haitians Who Blog wasn't here. Dorsainval Curator wasn't here. And I wanted to just like surround myself with like business
Business-minded
individuals, business-minded people. So I went to a professional conference, and I went with my university.
Okay.
So I'm in this professional conference. I don't recall anything. I don't remember anything, unfortunately. So they had a party, an after party for the entire conference.
Okay.
And thankfully, we were old enough.
Yes.
So,
Party.
well, I was
You
old
have a few
enough.
cocktails.
Right, I was old enough. And being an attractive woman, people just throw drinks at you.
Love it, love it.
Just like tricks. So I'm the kind of person, if I'm getting drunk, I leave.
Okay.
So I felt like I was on the way
Okay.
of being drunk, so I
It's time
left
to
the
go.
party. You know, gracefully bowed out.
Yes.
And I walked to the hotel. I went to the hotel. That's all I remember. I made sure I got home safely. That
Yes.
was my. After that, I don't recall anything that
Anything else.
happened. I don't know how anything was initiated. The only thing I remember is the elevator doors are closing. And me and some person were making out, and then after that, a flashback of me being in an ambulance.
Oh, my
So
gosh.
you can only imagine how much. I think I remember thinking that we got involved into a car accident.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, we had this huge car accident. Everybody, and I'm just thinking I'm not even thinking about myself. I'm
Right.
like, what happened to everybody
Right.
else?
Yeah.
And I just remember myself being in the ambulance, and I woke up in the hospital, and I have a very dark humor. So the person comes up to me and says, "Do you know where you are?" I said, "Yeah, I'm in DC." And they're like, "Do you know why you're here?" And I was like, "I'm assuming I had a great freaking time."
Yeah.
You know what?
And they're like, "You're funny. No, you're here because you're intoxicated." I was like, okay, so I'm
Right.
intoxicated.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
So I leave the hospital. So there's no one there. None of the people that I came with was there.
Right.
I have no purse. I have
No
no
nothing.
wallet. I have nothing. I don't even know how to get back to the hotel. I don't know what hospital I'm at.
gosh.
Oh
So you
my
can imagine,
goodness.
I'm just like, what the
Confused.
heck
What is going on?
happened to me? So thankfully, the person at the front desk was very nice. She
Okay.
got me a cab, and I told the cab, I don't know the name of the hotel, but it has a huge lion in front of it.
Wow.
And they're
Goodness.
like, we know which hotel
Okay.
that is. So he drops me off at the hotel, and I walk in, and there's just like prying eyes. Everybody's looking at me like I did something wrong.
They're like, we remember you.
And I was like, what the heck
Yeah, yeah,
happened?
yeah.
So not only did I feel confused, I wasn't aware what's happening. People are staring at me. They're looking at me like I'm crazy.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what the heck is going on?
Right.
No one said anything. So you pick up the phone, I call my partner, and I say to him, I'm like, hey, I don't know what happened. I was in the hospital. And of course, then
Yeah, you cheating on me?
he-
That's the first thing he said.
he lashes out in the worst way.
You like went
What?
hang up on you.
So I just remember wanting to go to sleep.
Yeah.
I think I was hungover. And so I decided to just rest. And I went to the bathroom, and there was like, blood in my underwear. It hurt.
Oh my
And I was
gosh.
just like, what
Wow.
happened?
Yeah.
I don't remember. I
Right.
don't know anything. I go downstairs for lunch. Breakfast. people were staring at me, and I was just like, oh my gosh, what is going on?
Do you know
So,
something? What happened?
Does anybody know anything?
Right.
Tell me. Can you tell me what
Right.
happened? And everyone's just like staring at me. And finally, I don't remember who told me this story, but someone was said that they found me on the floor in the building, and someone touched me, and I freaked out. And that person thought that I was on like drugs or something.
So
and
they
I'm
called.
like, well, I fell asleep on the floor, so technically.
Ah.
So then I was like, okay, there's nothing to. I don't have anything to say. I don't know what happened. But I did remember the person that I was in the elevator with. So then I disappeared. They went missing. Nobody knew where they were. I was just like, okay.
Somebody you came to the conference with?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Oh man.
I confronted the person. What did we do? I think we talked at UCF where I felt more comfortable. I went to the student union, made sure there's a lot of people around.
Exactly.
And I was just like, I don't know what happened, but you're the last person that I remember. And he explained everything in a way that it was my fault.
What? That you came on to him and all of this?
That I
She
came
seduced
on to
him.
him and I did this and I did that. And it's just like, but I was drunk. I know you can tell I'm drunk. Like, there's no way you don't know when he's drunk.
Right.
And he's like, I didn't know you were drunk. I was like,
So, but why did he disappear though? I mean, here you are.
because
They
he knew
taking you
something
to the
was
hospital.
wrong.
He did something wrong.
Yeah. So after the fact that I told him and he was like, when I knew that he was lying is he asked me, did I tell my partner? And I said, yeah, I tell my partner everything. Yeah.
Yes.
He knows everything. And he was like, oh, I wouldn't tell if my girlfriend, if that happened with my girlfriend, I wouldn't want to know. And I was like,
What?
interesting. So I went to go get tested to make sure that everything was
Right.
okay. And then I was fine. Thankfully, I didn't get any like diseases
Thank
or
God.
Right.
any infections.
Yes.
But I did suffer like trauma.
Of course.
So for like 3 years, I just didn't want to be around anybody. I didn't want to be touched by anybody. My relationship had to end. Like it was just like that happened, and then there's
Well,
no
you weren't
way.
going to do anything anyway.
Right.
You just didn't want to be bothered.
Right. So it's just like that relationship was gonna give up. I had this. It taught me a lot about consent,
Yes.
mainly,
Yes.
and making sure that I played my role in consent because it does take two people. So whenever someone and I were going to engage in any activity, I said, "Don't touch me when
Yes.
I'm drunk. Don't
Right.
touch me, even
Right.
if I took like a sip of a drink.
Doesn't matter. Yes.
Don't even bother
Yes.
touching me because it's very triggering."
Of course.
And I
No
think
is
it
no.
just like it took my no is a no.
Yes.
And I made sure I said that when I was dating anyone. Like the moment we started dating, I said, "Hey, I've had some trauma. Don't touch me
Right.
when I'm drunk. Let me be drunk.
Right.
Put me inside my room. Go home."
Good.
And I also had like a requirement: you can't come into my apartment. I just had so many rules.
Because that made you feel comfortable.
Of course.
Right.
Whatever
Yeah.
makes you
so
comfortable.
I learned ways to just not allow the trauma to take over
Yeah.
my sex life, my sexuality, dating. But I did have like anxiety for about 3 years after, and then I finally healed. But it was just so much things. The assault happened. My mom passed away. My brother passed away.
gosh.
My
Back to
relationship
back to
ended.
back.
I was just like,
You're like,
yo,
enough.
Yeah.
we just need
No more.
we just need a break.
Yeah. Total
Just a break.
Yeah.
Leave me alone. But shoot, 2019 came. Life was great.
So you went for
just-
counseling. And
You sought
did-
therapy.
Yeah, so I was already getting my degree in
Okay.
psychology, and then I learned that marriage and family was just super interesting for me.
Yes.
I what did I do? I did research
Okay.
on infidelity and jealousy, and
Okay.
I ended up presenting at a conference. I won the conference of 200 people.
Congrats.
So I was placed second. Then I went to a state competition. I placed there as well. So it was just like the fuel to fire, and
Right.
I was like, I'm just gonna go get my master's in
Yeah.
marriage and family.
So you did
And
that.
now that's my career. Yeah.
Congratulations. You're so amazing.
That's
You didn't let
awesome.
anything stop you.
No, you kept
No matter
going.
what it is.
I wish I did stop though. I'll be honest, because everything happened my last semester, and I remember my teacher saying to me, "You never told any of this."
Right.
Our professor was like, "You just never told us anything. You just literally like went through grad school." It probably took when I was doing my finals is when I finally cracked. I cracked. It was just too much.
Yes.
I was like stressing about finals, family, graduating, and I just had to like I I had to extend just my testing periods for
Okay.
about like 2,
Right.
3 weeks, and I couldn't transition into my summer until I finished it. But everybody was
They
super
worked with you.
understanding.
Of course.
They were upset that I didn't say anything, but
Yeah.
I was just like, no, I think I'm finally cracking. I can't. Like my boss, she
gosh.
put me on leave from work
Okay.
Yes.
because I didn't take care of my mental health. So special shout out to
That's
her.
right.
That's right.
For like, you can't come to work until you go to a therapist.
That's
And I was
right.
just like,
Yeah, and you know the importance of it.
You know them.
right.
You
And
know
I was
the
like, did she really just say that?
Yeah,
She said it.
she had to
And
force you to
she
sit
said-
home and
she
get some
said,
help.
You can't come to work until you go to a therapist, and I
Right.
have to see the note that you went
That's
to.
right.
Good.
And I was just like, okay, girl, we're gonna go to
Yeah,
a
good.
therapist.
Good. You needed to.
You
Yeah.
felt that helped the therapist.
100. She was like, what brings you to counseling? And I just started crying.
Yes.
That's what brought
That
me
was
to
me.
counseling.
You're like, where do you want
Where
me
do I
to start?
And she was just like, what brings you to counseling? And I was like, and like, okay. And I was just the whole 45 minutes, and she's like, so I'm gonna ask that you come back.
Yes.
I was just like, yeah.
It seems to always
So-
do that when you go to therapy. They
Right.
just have you just bawling.
45 minutes
Yes.
of
Girl,
crying. I was like, yeah, I need this.
I've never been to counseling, but I'm sure if I did, I'd be crying for the
Ooh,
day
for
or
sure.
two. She'd be
For
like,
sure.
come back next month.
Yes.
Right. No,
Next
she
month,
literally-
next week.
That I'd be crying so hard. She'd be like, come back next month.
Let's try again. Yeah, so counseling was definitely beneficial.
Okay, good.
Awesome.
I don't regret it. I didn't really. I think we did like 6 weeks. I think it was brief therapy, and then I went to a group,
Okay.
for a grieving group.
Yes, yes.
To grieve like everything that I
Yeah.
lost, and no, it was definitely like I'll recommend it to anybody
That's
because I
right.
do know if I was doing it by myself.
Yeah.
But now
I
you are
think.
doing it. Well, you're not actually doing it by yourself, but
Right.
every single time you meet with someone,
That's true.
every single time you speak
part
to
of
someone,
me is like,
it's a healing. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
It's a healing. That's part of you.
Yeah. I also learned that I cannot work with sexual trauma clients.
No.
It's just
It's
not-
too close to home.
Triggering.
It's not gonna happen.
Too close to home. That's why.
So it has to be like a mild degree,
Okay.
and I'm worried like it has to be on the lowest scale
Okay.
of trauma. But yeah, I definitely learned that I
Yeah.
cannot.
But that's understandable.
Cannot.
Yeah, it
I mean,
is.
I'm happy I learned that because I would have been a bad therapist if I did work with individuals that trigger me.
Yeah.
Right.
So I
Well,
think
my
that was really good.
therapist said.
I know, right?
No, can't work with anybody who's had the same. Like,
Right.
I
Exactly.
distance myself so that I can be a sound therapist.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. And you work with a particular type of group. Who do you work with? specifically?
Yeah, so I work with Black and Caribbean millennials,
Okay.
more importantly. So
Yes.
just for everybody watching, millennials goes up to 35. I know, I know. Sometimes they're like, I'm not a millennial because I used the tape before we got to the CDs. I
Right.
understand.
What made you choose that group?
So when I think about Black and Caribbean individuals, I think about the lack of education around mental health. Like I mentioned, like my family told me that my mom is the way that she is because she disrespected her
Right.
father.
Come
right?
on.
So she had a child early that's disrespectful.
And that's why she's-
So now she's
come on.
punished by
Right.
God because of her,
No.
disobeying her father. So that educational piece was so important
It
for
is.
me to apply within our community.
Yes.
Right.
So I was like, no, I have to work with, and I kid you not, I worked with other people,
Right.
and it was very, I didn't have the satisfaction at all. I was just like, first world problems. And I decided to change my population in 2020,
That's right.
and I kid you not, like I go to work excited to be there.
Yes, you're helping people.
Excited
It's just wonderful.
to make that difference.
But that's like what you were saying. Talk to her about
What do you do?
your counselor.
Well,
when you first went to the first
honestly,
therapist that you went
the
to.
first therapist I went with didn't look like me, which is fine.
Yeah.
But very nice lady, but she wasn't culturally competent. You know what I mean? And it wasn't helping me at all. So I decided after 3 weeks to switch to somebody else, and oh my God, from the day one,
Right.
change,
So it's
Right.
a difference.
Yeah.
total difference.
Yeah.
Because they understand.
And I also noticed that, like, while there's a lot of us, we're in the field, but we're not private practice.
Right, right. Okay.
So a lot of the times you have to go through agencies,
Exactly.
and some people don't like agencies. They just want to contact a private person.
Right.
So deciding to do private practice at itself, it's stepping out of your comfort zone
Right.
because private practice is W-2 employee. Like,
Right.
You know things are set. Private practice, you're kind of like pushing yourself by yourself.
Yes.
So I just remember there's a platform called Psychology Today, and it's very whitewashed.
Okay.
Unfortunately, when you even type in the word Black therapist, non-Black therapists pop up. That's how
Not too many.
That's how limited the amount of Black therapists
Yeah.
are on there. So I had to make it my responsibility.
Yes.
It was like $200. I was like, it's okay. I'm going to put myself on that platform
Oh, good.
because I want when someone types in Black
That's right.
therapist, they will see a Black therapist.
Right.
So I joined different kinds of groups that were targeting mainly people of non-color and just become a color person on there.
Right.
And I noticed that like a large amount of referrals. Like I guess it was needed that there was a
Yes.
lot more Black therapists on
Absolutely.
there. And 2020 has definitely encouraged those communities
Right.
to increase the diversity
Right.
of the individuals in their practices.
Right.
I was fortunate to join a all women of color. So we have
wonderful.
Hispanics,
Yes.
Black, Haitian, and
wonderful.
all multilingual individuals. To
Thank
help
you all.
our multi.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you
that was
all.
like a blessing in the sky. Like it literally happened out of nowhere, and I feel like God knew
was
what
meant to be.
You know what you were doing
Right.
when I picked up that phone and I made that phone call.
That's right.
So I joined a group practice of all multilingual individuals, and they're all catering to their multilingual
Yeah, I love that.
communities. Yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah. So that was very rewarding.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
You, we're not just going to talk about this therapist, this wonderful therapist that you are. You do so many.
All right, the Renaissance woman, y'all.
Yes. That's
The
right.
Renaissance
And there's
woman.
nothing wrong with that.
No,
Because,
no.
and you're doing all of them well.
Yes.
You have this, you are the founder of Haitians Who Blog.
Yeah.
And Dorsainval Creative Group. And more. We only
Yes.
have two listed here.
There's just the two. Everything
it seemed
else
like
had
it's
to
so
go.
much more. Oh, you had to get rid of
Everything
them.
else
And
had
I was
to
like,
go.
wait a minute.
I
She
was
does
like,
more
we
than-
had to
Cut it down a little bit.
cut it down. Everything. They didn't go.
Yeah.
I just no longer do it.
Okay, there
I
you
have
go.
other people who'll do it for me. Not
Very
me.
good.
No more. Too much
Enough.
work.
So
Yeah.
share with us.
Yeah,
Haitians Who
so
Blog.
Haitians Who Blog is my child. I
Yeah.
tell
Your
people it's
baby.
like my baby because my baby turned into a great entity as time went on. But I started Haitians Who Blog when I was in undergrad, my senior year of college, and I became a writer. I started writing for online publications. I became a ghostwriter. And I was just doing.
though. How did that start?
I love writing.
Yeah, I prefer to write.
Probably since the age of like 14.
Okay.
I was groomed to be a writer. Like when in my educational system
Okay.
at my school, my
Okay.
English teachers made sure that if I went from honors, I went to AP. If I went from AP, I went into dual enrollment. Like they were like everything English writing. I could have been an English major. That's how great I
Wow.
was at it.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So I was groomed to be a reader and a writer.
Have you ever reached out, to thank them for that?
Yes, she actually she like retweeted and reposted all of my posts, and she's like, I'm gonna share these with my students. And I said, if you want me to come back to the
I
school,
will.
I would love to come back to the school.
Right.
Like, listen, you have made me
That's
the writer
awesome.
I am.
Yes.
The reason why I call myself a Renaissance woman is
Because
because
of
of my
you.
writing teacher.
that something?
Yeah, I fell in love with Langston Hughes, and he's known as the Renaissance man.
So
So
you're the
I
Renaissance
became
woman.
like everything goes together. They all make sense if once you hear the entire story, but it all makes sense. So I was groomed to be a writer. I took a writing for publication course.
Okay.
I didn't have to pay for it. The school paid for it, so
Yeah,
I did it.
why not?
Yeah.
Shoot, let's learn how to write. So I learned a lot more about writing. So then I went into an online publication, started writing for them. I had a goal of 15 articles.
Okay.
Again, I was feeling very a place for white people again, just being honest. And I remember writing a think piece, Insecure had just came out.
Okay.
And I was like, I wrote a piece where I was like, I think people need to understand the importance of including black women in Hollywood.
Right.
Yes.
More importantly, black women writing
Yes.
in Hollywood.
And here you
And that
are.
was just like a beautiful piece for me. It took me a week and a half. It was my favorite piece written. and it had like 30 views. And I was like, what the heck?
Oh,
What happened?
And then I write a piece about, and I'm going to say this in the nicest
Yes.
way, free to low budget things to do in Orlando during the holidays.
You get 200, 300.
I still get paid from that article
something?
today. And I was just like, nah. No, that's not how I write. I wrote it because I knew it would get me paid.
Right.
No. So I had to go. I was just
Yeah.
like, this sucks that I can't write pieces about
makes sense.
Black women, about
Right.
Black people,
Isn't that
and not
something?
get the same exposure. So I left and I started writing culture and tourism pieces for Haiti Open magazine. And again, I tell you, God just be working in many ways, doubled my pay.
Who
Like,
would have known,
I
though?
chose how many articles I wrote. Like, I wasn't on like a time crunch
yes.
because they required you to do 2 a week. And this one was like, no, every time we send
Whatever.
you one, you complete it, you get paid. I
There
was
you
like,
go.
wow,
Okay.
this is beautiful. So I'm here writing about hotels, nightlife,
Right.
everything in Haiti as if I lived in Haiti.
right.
You
And
right.
I'm contributing that to the internet, to
Yes.
this magazine, and really just pushing a different narrative about Haiti online.
Right.
Yes.
And
good.
that made me start Haitians Who Blog because I wanted to know if there are other people like me
Right.
writing about Haiti's cultural and tourism, or blogging it,
Yes.
or even YouTubing it, right? So I started the community just for me to find like-minded people so I can also balance ideas. I didn't know everything about Haiti.
Right.
And it just transformed
blossomed.
into 25,000 people later.
And here we are.
That is awesome.
Yeah, and what started as just a space for me to find others like me, now I'm teaching individuals who are in their beginning phases like I was,
right.
and just helping them navigate the landscape of being a Black and Haitian creative.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We are so proud of you.
I think-
Wow, it's awesome.
I think Dorsainval Creative came out of the business side of that.
Okay.
So I wasn't a businesswoman, I was just a blogger.
Right.
You learned.
And so I learned what I was doing was called marketing
Yes.
and advertising.
Okay.
And then I was like, okay, so all of this time I've been advertising, I've been marketing, I've been increasing people's dollars by like 35%,
Right.
like
Yeah.
bringing their revenue up. And
I need to do it for
I was
myself.
I was like, wait a minute. There's something good here. And I became the go-to, do you know web designer? Do you know a graphic designer? Everybody asked me because I had this huge community of creatives.
Right.
And I was like, I wonder what it would look like if I just created a business where
Myself.
I outsource people and I just have them a part of the group. I
you
take
go.
their percentage.
There you go.
And then I just put them out there and I
There you
market for
go.
them. And it turned into me providing jobs to people in Haiti, but
nice.
also generating income for myself and that person as well. So
How do you
Dorsainval
feel?
Creative.
How do you feel?
I like it's one of the things that I keep quiet because
Yeah.
like once people find out about it, it gets bigger than me. So I'd like
Then you
I don't
get
talk-
help. That's
I
okay.
don't talk about Dorsainval Creative much. just
Talk about
because-
it. Talk about it.
I'm like, I'm giving it its time and I'll get there.
No, that's what we do here. We talk about it.
Yeah, so I definitely just feel like I'm making a difference.
Yes, you are.
Not only did I supply myself with an additional source of income, I've been able to give 13 other people jobs. So like if they're having a rough patch, they know they have like this side income
Right.
just sitting there waiting for them. So that has definitely been something that I'm super proud of.
Yeah.
But I'm
You should
also
be.
really bad at it. Like it's the first
How?
time I've ever had to be a boss. So I've never been a boss before. I've been a leader, but not someone who's responsible for like
Others.
an entire group of
Yes.
people.
Right.
It's work.
Well, you're
So
doing
I'm
good.
learning how to become a better employer, and like I'm learning so much about workplace and stuff. Like I was just like I never. The 5-year-old, 2-year-old Shirley
Yes.
never saw this person here.
It's only going to get better and better.
Never
you know
knew
that.
this
But you just
person.
kept going. You didn't even let that stop you.
No.
Everything
True.
that
No.
you've been through,
Yeah.
you did not let that stop you. Are
Yeah.
you going to get your PhD?
That's the end goal.
Okay.
But we're gonna have to wait.
Pace yourself.
So I was groomed to get into a PhD program. Like I'm fully funded. I was able to become
Wow.
a McNair Scholar, which is
Come
an elite
on.
scientific
Yes.
group. So initially I was supposed to go into a PhD program, but I didn't really like the PhD
Okay.
programs. So I went into a master's program. So the next step,
Okay.
no matter what I have to do, I have no choice but to
Yeah.
do a
You
PhD.
don't have a choice. You got to get
Oh,
it.
we call you Black Excellence. Well, wait a minute. Haitian excellence.
Yes. Yes.
You got to brag about this. Also, you were featured in USA Today.
That was I was.
You're like, what? Is that
I'm
my?
still
Is
in
that
shock. I'm still in shock at this feature because it was supposed to be, me in the newsletter
Right.
talking about it, and I don't know what happened, what they
Whatever
told
happened.
her, and she was like, "Hey, here's the link." I said, "The link to what?" And she's like, "The article." I said, "Article? Wait a minute now. Wait a minute. I wish I gave you a better picture. What?" And she's like, "Yeah, you're featured." I was like, "Whoa, okay, featured on USA Today.
That's awesome.
That's like,
Congrats.
I thought I had to get a publicist for that."
You need to. Go ahead.
Right. So, I think, I did a tweet about the reason why I went into therapy and why it was so important for me to work with Caribbean individuals. There's one thing to be Black,
Yes.
and there's another thing to be Black and an immigrant. And the scale of, and this is not to minimize anything, but when you are an immigrant and you're Black in this community, in this society itself, life is like 10 times harder.
It
and
is.
I'm just thinking back on my immigrant parents, the language barrier, the cultural differences, the lack of awareness of cultural understanding of America, and
Right.
having to assimilate to that was just, it's just challenging, and that's why I make it like in the forefront. Like, I don't care if you're Jamaican, if you're Bahamian.
It doesn't
I
matter.
understand the perils of being Black
that's right.
and Caribbean in this country. So I think that tweet, because it was so deep and
Yes.
stuff like that, she was just like, "I have to have you like talk about mental health for the Black community."
Yes.
Yeah, during this time.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love to tell that story though about our parents. Being
Right.
immigrants coming into this country as kids, teenagers,
Right.
and meeting each other, but then working so hard, and no matter what barriers, no matter what came
Right.
their way, they went past it. They
Pushing
went
through.
through it.
Yeah.
And then they had four amazing kids.
Yep.
And we just work as hard as they
They
worked.
do. Yeah. Yeah.
Just as hard as God, they rest in peace. Both of them are now passed.
Yeah.
But they worked their asses off.
They did. They did. I can remember my grandma would never let me live this down, but she's just like, I came in this country and I stayed in a 2-bedroom apartment in New York
Yeah.
where I wasn't even allowed to use the
Come on.
stove.
See?
And I was just like, girl, that was a
They've
lot.
been through it.
There's some
They've been through
stories.
it though. They've
Right.
been through
I
it.
was like, that was a lot. And she
Yes.
was like, I came here. She came to the country by herself. My grandfather
know
brought her
anyone.
in. She doesn't know anybody.
Come on.
She had
Don't
to
know
figure
the
it
language.
out. She had to leave her daughter back
Yes.
in Haiti so that she can build a life here, bring her daughter. I was just like, being an immigrant in this
Yes.
country is very, very, very challenging.
It's very challenging.
So I don't ever want to hear anybody say, "Oh, how hard it is," or "I can't this, I can't that." I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear that.
If my mom can stay in a 2-bedroom New York
Look, it was 2-bedroom
apartment where
Look, it
she
wasn't
couldn't
one.
even use the stove.
Right.
Come on.
Isn't that something?
Don't
Right.
know the language. Don't know anyone. And
Also, didn't even know the person that she lived with. You know how Haitians, they
Yes.
bring you into the country. They, whoever can help you can help you.
Right.
That's what it was.
That's
and
how it
she
was
had to
growing up
figure
in
it out.
ours too.
yeah.
That's how she had to figure it out.
Yeah.
So I was just like, the fact that you came down to Florida,
Right.
about your home, about your lot, you own it.
There you
Right.
go.
That's,
You work for it.
You work-
deserve it.
You did that. Yeah. So.
Shirley, I just love your I don't care what you think attitude and your
It
face
gets me in
spirit.
so much trouble. I never thought I would be in so much trouble for being honest.
Where do you get this confidence from? Share it with me.
Shoot. I was very quiet growing up.
Okay.
Again, I
With
had
everything.
I had a very hard time
Yes.
just adjusting with
Right.
everything. I was just super quiet kid. I had someone from high school reach out to me and say, "You talk now?"
Yes.
You were so quiet. We never heard you.
Yes, I do talk. And he reminded me, he's like, you were so quiet. You would just like laugh and keep it pushing. I think, I do remember the day that I became overconfident.
Okay.
I can say that. I had just graduated with my associate's degree. And I took like 8 months. I didn't take 8 months. I applied to a program. They put me on hold for 8 months, didn't tell me anything.
Right.
And so I was just sitting there waiting. So in that time frame, I just worked. That's all I did.
Okay.
I worked back and forth. Work. I
work,
didn't do
make some money.
anything.
Work,
I
work.
worked, went, hung out with my friends at their house, and that was it. And when I found out that I didn't get accepted into the program, I was just like, well, what's my next move?
Right.
And I just remember saying to myself, I don't have to do what my parents told me to do. And I just went to 5 different universities in America. Well, 5 different universities in Florida, to be specific. And I just wrote my essays, put in my applications, paid my fees.
Right.
That's it.
And I let it go with the wind and whatever God chose.
Right.
I got accepted to every school with scholarships.
Yes.
And so
I was
you
just
had
like-
choices.
I
now.
was like, well, what do you know? I waited 8 months for one,
Right.
and here we got 5 people waiting for me to decide.
That's right.
So I decided that I didn't want to stay in South Florida. I wanted to get away from my family.
Yes.
And I also didn't want to go as far up north, so I decided to come to Orlando.
Okay.
And I just remember saying yes and coming to the school, and I said, this is what I'm going to do differently here. I'm not going to just work.
Okay.
I'm not going to just go to my friend's house. I'm going to do something.
Do
Yes.
something to make it count.
I didn't know what it was, but I decided to do something. So I literally dived into everything at UCF. Whatever gave me $1, I did it. So
Okay.
I worked for the foundation. Working for the foundation got me, my whole face is on the foundation building now. So working for them got me to be the spokesperson for first generation students.
This is a person that didn't speak.
I know,
Nothing.
right? Surprise.
And then from there, that got me into becoming a McNair Scholar. McNair Scholar got me to travel. Travel got me to present. Present got me awarded. And I was just like, I completely changed who I was as a person who is just comfortable and complacent
Right.
with just going to work and going to
But
school.
you changed for the good.
Yeah,
Yes.
and it there's a difference when you decide to be involved in things, right? So I learned about community engagement and community involvement, and that spiked my confidence because I felt like I found my purpose.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
really did.
So I learned that.
I know. I love it.
What a story.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So happy for you.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, completely different human. I'm glad I made the shift. Definitely glad.
We're waiting for the book. That's what we're waiting
Oh,
for.
child, I don't know where this book is going to be.
That is it.
We're waiting for the book because I can see it. You're a
I
writer.
love writing.
Yes, it's your turn to write your story now.
Oh
You've
my
lived
gosh.
it. You write it.
Yeah, I don't even the adoption side. I actually was afraid to tell people. I think I used to be afraid to
Yeah.
talk
Why
about.
do you think
Yeah.
that they would? I mean, it's beyond your control. What could you do as a child?
I don't know.
I mean, nothing. There's nothing you can do.
I never, like, my best friend said to me, I never knew you're adopted. I was like, I don't think I knew how to tell people that
Yeah.
I was adopted. Plus, I didn't understand
Of
it.
course.
I didn't know the story.
You wanted to keep it to yourself.
Yeah, I think it was just one of those secrets that I had for myself.
Yeah.
And I think it was a therapist group that I'm in, and we're all Haitian.
Yeah.
And we're talking, and they're like, does anybody know any like adopted Haitians? I was like, oh, I'm adopted. And she's like, you should probably tell this story.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And she was like, wait, okay, hold on. Aside from everything that you do now, you were a McNair Scholar.
Right,
Do
right,
you-
right.
She's like, do you know how prestigious this is in the rest of the world? I was like, I didn't think people cared about me being
Right.
McNair
You said, I don't want to tell
Scholar.
my
What?
story.
Like, I've done it for so long. Like, I know it's prestigious, but it wasn't
You
a
didn't
part
think
of
people
my-
cared.
I've always done it.
Yeah.
No one's ever said anything. So I told her I understand though, because the grad school isn't for black people. Like my grad program of 104 students, there was only 4
Right.
black people.
Oh, my.
So imagine there's 100 people in this
Right. Isn't
program,
that something?
and only 4 of us were black. So I remember my interview. My interview had maybe like 205 candidates,
Okay.
potential candidates, and there was about 7 black people who were candidates in that room.
Right.
And to see 4 got accepted.
Wow.
Out of that 200 candidacies. So I was just like, yeah, I
big
do
deal.
understand that, like, me being as a black person in general, being able to get into grad school, being able to be selected in a group of 200 people down to 100, and I'm one of the 4 black
Yes.
people accepted. So I put the pieces to the puzzle together. I was like, these are all accomplishments, no matter how small you may
That's
think
right.
they
Yep.
are.
Yes,
there
they
are a
are.
lot of people who can't be you and do it.
Give yourself a pat on the back.
Right?
You decided
on.
to stand up.
You did that.
Right? You stood up.
Right.
There was no more sitting.
Perseverance. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely the
Perseverance.
perseverance, the diligence.
Yes.
I channeled my ancestors.
Yes, you did.
Spirit.
Oh my
Girl, you made them proud. Too.
Right.
You made them proud. They
Yeah.
rolling.
Yeah.
So what's new for Shirley? What's gonna happen? What else can we expect?
So I'm on a learning about the business side of being a entrepreneur.
Yes.
And so I'm in this position where I'm doing crowdfunding
Okay.
and I'm trying to find business grants. And honestly, no more bootstrapping.
No.
So no more using my money
That's right.
to create something and using other people's
That's
money to
right.
fund the community, because that's how other people
Do it.
So
That's right.
this year it's about finding ways to provide for my community without it coming at my expense.
Absolutely.
Yes. We
and
feel
then-
the same.
Yep.
We feel the same way.
Yeah, and then I'm creating something called the Haitian Creative Academy,
Okay.
where I'm going to allow people to tap into a lot of the things that I've learned.
Okay.
And I'm going to gather some other Haitian creatives who are
nice.
expertise in the social media realm.
Bring them all together.
And
I like
and
that.
bring them together and have them provide their services to our
Right.
community to teach people
Yes.
how to monetize.
Make sure
on-
you share that with
yeah, no, I'm
Love
super
it.
excited. I can't wait for the website to be done.
Yeah.
I'm taking a couple courses just so I can be prepared.
perfect it.
and stuff.
To perfect it.
To make it perfect.
Yes,
I'm
of
a little-
course.
A little perfectionist. And we launched our influencer directory. So now we help brands reach Haitian creatives and
Wow.
have them a part of their brand partnership. So hopefully we can get to the point where we're kind of like a space for like L'Oreal to come to or whatever and
Right.
Yes.
see more
It'll happen.
inclusion.
Oh,
of
yeah. It's
gonna
Haitians.
happen.
Yeah, no, I definitely see it.
It's gonna happen.
I launched it like a month ago and we already have like 3 businesses who want us to
See?
outsource for them. So
Isn't that something?
so we're in a very teaching phase. Like I released this job board where Haitian businesses can put out that they're looking for a marketing
Yes,
director
okay.
or they're looking
Okay.
for a UX web designer, and then we would
That's
just
good.
have people apply to those positions. Yeah, so
Amazing.
Love it.
it's very not about the Haitian community itself, but how can we provide?
That's
to
it.
people in the
Okay.
community.
That's right.
Yeah.
Provide.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
We're going to have a candid minute with you.
Yay!
What would you tell someone who experienced the same trauma that you experienced
Ooh.
and who just feels they're not good enough and they just can't go on anymore?
I would say for them to challenge themselves. I challenge that unhelpful, intrusive thought. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And ask yourself: is there another perspective? Is there someone who can give you an opinion about it? Is it valid? Is it true? Can it be tested? And just look at the opposite. A lot of the times we focus only on the negative. We only say the negative and never think about the positive what if. The what ifs are always bad.
Right.
So I always tell people, when you've experienced something so traumatizing, so hurtful, try to see the other side, the greener side
Yeah.
versus the dying side.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for that.
Yes,
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, we just thank you for being here. We know you're busy. We know you're going
Oh my
back to work.
gosh.
Yeah. tell the viewers how they can contact you.
Oh yeah. So if you are looking to get in touch with me, interesting enough, Shirley Door is now a business. But again, so you learn a lot when you become a business owner. You learn that like if you're gonna get sued, you don't want your personal side to be
Yes.
sued.
Yes.
So you create an entity to
That's right.
protect yourself. So now I'm officially doing business as Shirley Door. It's my fictitious name. I am Shirley Door now. So you can follow me on all social platforms: YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. More importantly, you can follow me on Instagram at Shirley Door _. That is where I have my sexuality education videos, where I teach people about intimacy, sex, communication, and relationships. And then also there you will find everything. I have like a link, and the link gives you a link to all of my like different entities. Yeah.
Thank you.
Shirley Messy.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we hope that we'll have you come back.
Yes.
in the
Yes,
future.
definitely.
Yes.
We'll be following you.
I expect more features.
That's right.
It's Essence if you're watching.
There you go. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us this evening. Please tune in next Tuesday at 6 p.m. for another guest right here from our community. In closing, Maya Angelou said, "I can be changed by what happens to me, but I refuse to be reduced by it." Shirley is the true example of a mover and a shaker. It's in our Caribbean genes. When the proclaimed Renaissance woman is not growing her brand, she is spending her time servicing minority children with developmental disorders, and educating minority communities via social mediums on mental health in Black and Caribbean populations. We are real sisters, sharing real stories within our community. We thank you for tuning in to talk about it, the Candid Conversation Show.
Let's go. Let's go.
Come on, let's have a candid conversation. Let's talk about it. Just bring it up, we got